Hey, you remember me? I have a base of a triangle, and then in the middle here I've got parallelograms, or I guess you could call me rectangles. Um, I'm a triangular prism, and we're going to be looking at the surface area of triangular prisms. And you can probably see it right here, but that's a face right there, and then there would be one, two, does it look like three rectangular or parallelogram faces, and then two of the triangle faces? If you were to literally pull this apart and just kind of fold it up like you would a box, you would see that there are three rectangular faces than the two triangular faces. So five faces in all, and that makes things a little bit easier in terms of the process for finding the area of a triangular prism. You could probably guess the steps. See if you could guess along with me. You'd have to start by finding the area of the rectangle, find the area of the triangle. That would be really the second or third step, depending on how you want to go about it. You don't have to do it in this order precisely, but you'd have to multiply the area of the rectangles by 3, since there are 3 rectangles. And then, similarly, with the triangles, since there are 2 of them, you're going to multiply that by 2, since there are 2 triangles. The last step here is an easy step, but it's one of those steps that you can tend to forget because the process is so long, so pay real close attention. This is a wolf. Add the areas together. So let's look at an example problem. And you can see these are the dimensions here. This is a 7 centimeter by, and even though usually with a triangle we don't want to look at this slant for a dimension, in this case we're going to pay attention to this 6 centimeters because it describes the shape in the middle of the parallelogram. And the 5.2 centimeters marks the height of the triangle, and then finally the base of the triangle, base and height always meet at a right angle, and that's 6 centimeters right there. So the steps for this are very similar to finding a composite figure. If you remember, we would get the names of the shapes. So a rectangular face or just plain old rectangle would be fine. And then of course the triangle we need to account for too. And it's real important, this part right here that I'm going to add in. You're going to want to multiply the rectangular face by what number? Do you remember from the last slide? We're going to multiply it by 3. And then similarly multiply this by 2 because there are 2 triangles and 3 rectangles when we're all said and done. Next step, write the formulas. So base times height, and then base times height divided by 2, of course, for the triangle. And then just substitute the numbers. So for this one, it'll be 7 times 6. Make sure you label your units in there. 42 centimeters squared. And then, of course, don't forget this right here. We need to make sure we remember to do that to the 42. So we end up with 126 centimeters squared. And I'm telling you, the most common mistake you'll make probably is to do that, or one more thing I'm going to show you at the end of this problem. Again, similar thing here. Just following the steps. 5.2 centimeters was your height, and then 6 was your base. And we're dividing that by 2, of course. And then you get 31.2. We divide it by 2. And you'll notice that we get back to the number we actually originally had, because again we're going to be multiplying this by 2 because there are 2 triangles. So you'll notice that we end up with 31.2 again. So if you notice that and you want to skip the steps, you can do that. That's no problem with me. Now this is the part that people are going to say, well, I'm done now. Figured out the area of the rectangular face and the triangular bases. You're not, though, because you wanted to find the surface area, so you have to remember to add 126 and 31.2. And of course, when you do this, make sure you line up the decimals. 126 didn't have a decimal in it, so I just annexed one in there and put a 0 in. 6 plus 1 is 7. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then, of course, the one we don't need to worry too much about. 157.2 centimeters squared would be your total surface area. Alright, I want you to try this one on your own. Pause the video, see if you can do it. See if you can follow all the steps, and then I'll give you the answer in just a second. But pause the video on your own and try this problem in your own notebook. Alright, the answer is right here. You can see I multiplied the base by 3. I remembered to multiply the triangle base by 2. And if you add up those numbers, you should get 112 centimeters squared.